She pulled away like you never mattered, but now you're stuck in the silence, questioning your worth, replaying every moment, wondering if she'll ever come back, or if it was all a lie. You're waking up every day with her ghost in your mind, and no one around you gets it. They tell you to move on, to distract yourself, to be a man, but deep down you feel it. Something is unfinished. And yet here you are, unsure if her absence is final or if it's a test. Most men never get the answers. They keep chasing, waiting, texting, begging, while she stays distant, unreadable, in control. But what if I told you there are signs, undeniable, powerful, psychology-backed signs, that she's still thinking about you, still watching, still emotionally tied to you no matter how far she runs? This video will expose those 9 signs with brutal clarity and show you how to flip this whole situation in your favor. Not by chasing, not by simping, but by becoming the man who no longer needs her to come back. Because you've already rebuilt yourself into someone she could never leave again. If you've ever stared at your phone hoping for her name to pop up, if you've ever blamed yourself for her distance, or if you're tired of being stuck in emotional limbo, this is your wake-up call. By the time this is over, you won't just know if she's coming back. You'll know exactly who you need to become to make sure you never feel powerless again. Number 1. She blocks you, then unblocks you. She blocks you like she's deleting a chapter, thinking it gives her closure, control, some twisted sense of finality. But when she unblocks you without saying a word, no apology, no context, nothing, it's not just a random action or a soft accident of emotion. It's a calculated move soaked in ego. Go, not in love. And if you're not careful, you'll read it as a sign she cares when all it proves is that she wants to see if you still sit obediently in the cage she left unlocked, hoping you'll crawl back in. This cycle, block, unblock, silence, reaction, is a game. A tug-of-war she plays not because she misses you, but because she fears that you've stopped missing her. It's not about you at all. It's about the reflection of herself she lost when you stopped being her emotional mirror. But if you jump in the second she unblocks you, texting her, asking how she's doing, pretending like nothing happened, you don't look strong. You don't look like a man worth missing. You look like someone waiting at the door, like a doormat with a heart, and no woman respects a man she knows she can manipulate. And you know what's worse? That small high she gets seeing your message pop up first, like her power's been restored, only lasts a moment before it turns into a sneer, a sigh, maybe even a complaint to a friend. He's still chasing. That's what you become. Her validation, not her vision. So instead, when she unblocks you and you say nothing, do nothing, post nothing reactive, you shift the balance of power in a way that forces her to sit with her own choices. Suddenly, her silence is deafening, not yours. You become the one she can't read. That disturbs her. She starts questioning if you've moved on, if you've healed, if someone else has stepped in to see the value she took for granted. And that unease doesn't fade, it grows. You starve the ego that fed on your attention like a parasite, and when it starts to die, she reaches again, not because she loves you, but because she misses being the center of your universe. That's when you have a choice. Do you open the door, knowing she left it not to reconnect but to recontrol? Or do you keep walking forward, understanding that any woman who weaponizes blocking isn't trying to heal, but to manipulate outcomes in her favor, hoping your desire will outweigh your dignity? You become powerful, not by resisting contact, but by not needing it. Let her stare at your profile from the shadows. Let her ask mutual friends what you're up to. Let her watch your glow-up without a front-row seat. If she blocks you and you treat it like a gift, an opportunity to grow in silence without her noise, you start building a man she can't touch, not even with her most seductive bait. Start with your daily habits. Rebuild your body not for attraction, but for ownership. Master a skill that elevates your income, and most importantly, discipline your mind until no woman's inconsistency disrupts your focus. She doesn't expect that. She expects begging, chasing, breakdowns, stories she can screenshot and show her friends. But when she finds nothing, when your silence isn't desperation but transformation, she loses. She loses the version of you who cared too much, who gave too freely, who broke himself trying to be enough. And in that loss, you win something she can't reclaim, your self-respect. That's the version of you she'll regret leaving. That's the version of you who doesn't need to respond to an unblock. You're not a backup plan. You're the man who doesn't wait. You evolve. Number 2, she brings up the good times. This isn't about nostalgia or a random stroll down memory lane. This is one of the most manipulative, complex, and often misunderstood behaviors a woman will exhibit after pulling away, because when she starts bringing up how things used to be good, how you two had something special, or how she misses the old you, what she's really doing is opening a portal not into the past, but into a version of the future where you're still emotionally trapped and she's in control again. And most men walk blindly into this trap because they confuse this carefully crafted emotional bait for sincerity, when in reality, she's not actually missing the relationship. She's missing the feeling of being desired, being safe in your validation, being held in the warmth of your consistent attention without ever having to give that same level of emotional energy back. The moment you fall for this, responding with your own fond memories, trying to re-spark old flames, you turn yourself into her mirror again, someone who confirms her emotional value without demanding she truly earn yours. And in doing so, you set yourself on fire just to warm the same person who left you out in the cold. You have to understand, when a woman pulls away, it's rarely final on her terms. It's experimental. She wants to see if the world outside of your connection offers more excitement, better treatment, or even just more attention from someone new. And when that world fails to validate her in the way you once did, when it's colder, harsher, and more transactional, she looks back, not with remorse, but with strategy. That's when the reminiscing starts. But it's not love speaking, it's emotional insurance, a way to test the waters without committing, to make you lean forward just far enough that she doesn't have to. So how do you protect yourself from this? You detach emotionally from her memories while remaining fully committed to your own evolution. You write down the man you used to be, the good, the bad, the soft, and then you build a version of yourself that's 10 times sharper, stronger, more disciplined, so that when she tries to pull you back into emotional vulnerability by saying, "Remember our first trip?" you can smile, nod, and keep moving forward, because you know who you are now isn't someone who lives in nostalgia. He lives in momentum. Take practical steps today. Delete your old photos together if seeing them still stings. Take up a new routine that's so immersive it builds fresh memories without her. Start showing up in places she never saw you before, mentally, emotionally, financially. Make your growth so undeniable that even if she walks back in, she realizes she no longer fits in your world, not because she's changed, but because you've upgraded the criteria. When she brings up the good times, what she's really asking is, "Do I still have power here?" And your response, without ever saying a word, should be, "That man you once knew, he's gone. He evolved in the fire you left him in, and he never looked back." You don't chase ghosts, and you don't feed the past. You walk forward so boldly that the past can't even recognize you anymore, and that's when she feels the loss, not of you, but of her illusion of control. Be the man who honors the lesson, not the one who replays the scene. That's how you lead. That's how you win. That's how you never go back. And when she starts bringing up the good times, don't get pulled back in. That's not love talking. That's control in disguise. You need clarity, direction, and tools that don't just help you survive her return, but make you thrive with or without her. That's exactly why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men, the life-changing ebook that's already helped thousands of men break free from emotional manipulation and build unshakable power in love and in life. Inside, you'll learn how to respond to her signals, how to stop bleeding energy into women who don't deserve you, and how to become the kind of man no one dares to leave again. Once you grab it, you own it. For life. This isn't a temporary fix. It's a permanent shift. The link's in the comments. If you're serious about never being played again, you know exactly what to do. Number 3. She apologizes, even slightly. When she apologizes, whether it's a whispered, "I didn't mean to hurt you," a sudden text that says, "I've been thinking a lot," or even a vague statement like, "I should have handled things better," you need to realize this is not a free pass to trust again, and certainly not an open invitation to believe she's come back with changed intentions, because the reality is, most men are so starved for emotional validation, so desperate for closure or reconciliation, that they interpret any ounce of remorse as a green light to resume the connection. When in truth, that apology is often nothing more than emotional maintenance, her way of softening the guilt, of preserving her self-image as the good one in the story, and rarely about actually rebuilding something real with you. But here's what changes everything. When you hear that apology, and instead of melting, you assess. When you use her words not as permission to return, but as data to observe who she truly is now versus who she once pretended to be, you become powerful. Because a woman who sincerely regrets her actions doesn't just speak words. She changes behavior over time, consistently, without being asked or nudged. And if her apology is genuine, it'll be followed by effort, by accountability, by actual change in the way she treats you, not just a conveniently timed message when her other options dried up or her pride needs a fix. And that's where most men fail. They leap back in, hungry for hope, without pausing to ask, does her apology actually match her actions, or is it a reflex born of boredom, loneliness, or the fear that I've truly moved on? Let's go deeper. Apologies are often emotional breadcrumbs designed to see if you'll still bite, and the moment you do, the game resets. She has the validation she wanted, you're back on the hook, and the cycle of inconsistency, emotional volatility, and subtle manipulation resumes. And you don't even realize it until you're back at square one, wondering why nothing's changed despite her "I'm sorry." So instead of letting her apology pull you back into confusion, let it push you into clarity. Clarity about the fact that words mean nothing if behavior remains the same. That closure isn't something she grants you. It's something you decide on when you reclaim your self-worth. And more importantly, that no amount of guilt she expresses should undo the damage she willingly inflicted. It's time to stop romanticizing regret and start rewarding consistency. Real, tangible effort that doesn't beg for forgiveness, but earns back trust through action, time, and transparency. And if that doesn't follow her apology, then she's not sorry, she's strategic. So how do you turn this into transformation? You become the man who doesn't need apologies to heal, who doesn't hang on words to validate his worth, who rebuilds himself so thoroughly that anyone who ever underestimated his value ends up regretting their short-sightedness, not because you took them back, but because you didn't need to. You grew beyond them. Write this down. I accept apologies, but I follow patterns, and then start tracking everything: her tone, her behavior, her timing. Did she reach out when you stopped chasing? Did she apologize after her rebound failed? Did she say sorry without ever once asking how her choices impacted your life? All of that is data, And as a man on his mission, you don't ignore data for dopamine. Instead, you learn from it, grow from it, and use it to build a future so solid that no apology can tempt you back into instability, because that's the truth most won't tell you. Apologies don't fix what someone repeatedly broke. They just soften the guilt of the breaker. Don't be the man who gets caught in that loop. Be the man who hears "I'm sorry" and responds, not with hope, not with desperation, but with silence, growth, and relentless progress. Because the goal was never to get her back. It was to get yourself back. Number 4, she mirrors your social activity. When she starts matching your posts, mirroring your stories, copying your captions, sharing quotes that oddly reflect what you posted earlier that day, it's not coincidence. It's surveillance dressed up as subtlety. And what most men don't realize is that this mirroring isn't about reconnection. It's about reassurance, because she wants to confirm that she still has emotional real estate in your mind, that despite her silence, despite her pull away, you're still emotionally orbiting her world. And the biggest trap you can fall into is thinking this digital imitation means she's on her way back. It doesn't. It means she's watching, calculating, testing, and you know what she's really testing. Whether you've truly moved on, whether your growth is genuine or performative, whether you're becoming a version of yourself that no longer fits her narrative. And when she sees that you're posting about discipline, healing, leveling up, spending time with new circles, building something valuable, she'll either double down on the mirroring to compete emotionally, or she'll attempt to reinsert herself through a like, a DM, a reaction, something small that looks insignificant but is actually a probe, a test to see if you'll respond, if you're still accessible. And this is where you need to be different, because most men see this and get excited, hopeful, maybe even flattered, and they engage, not realizing that every time you respond to her mirroring, you reinforce her control. You validate her emotional game without ever receiving the commitment or vulnerability you deserve in return. So instead of playing along, you hold frame. You post not for her, not for the illusion of attention, but for yourself, your mission, your future. And when she sees that your digital presence is no longer about her, when she realizes she can't decode your mind through your online patterns anymore, that's when the true transformation begins. Now here's the key. Don't let your feed become your therapy. Don't post for sympathy. Don't share your heartbreak, your confusion, your spiritual struggle. Those things are sacred. And when you share them publicly while she's watching, you give her a roadmap to your emotions that she hasn't earned. And more dangerously, you turn yourself into a spectacle instead of a standard. Instead, turn your social presence into a mirror of your growth. New books, new routines, new environments, new people. Not to show her what she's missing, but to remind yourself of what you've reclaimed. And the more detached you become from how she interacts with your content, the more power you reclaim from her emotional games. Because truthfully, she doesn't need to like or comment to be obsessed. Her silence is often louder than her words. But your job isn't to decode her silence, it's to outgrow her games. So how do you use this practically? Audit your last 10 posts. Ask yourself, was I posting for validation or to document progress? If even half were emotionally reactive, shift your strategy immediately. Make your next 10 posts about building your mind, your health, your wealth, your environment, and watch how quickly the game changes, because a man who posts progress over pain is a man no woman can manipulate. Remember, she mirrors you because you used to mirror her, but when you stop playing her game and start playing your own, she either steps up or disappears, and either way you win, because you no longer need her presence to feel valuable, and you certainly don't need her social breadcrumbs to feel desired. You are not the echo of her attention. You are the architect of your evolution. Number 5, she gets curious about your life again. It starts subtly, doesn't it? A message from a mutual friend who says, "She asked how you've been," or an unexpected comment on a post you didn't think she'd even see anymore. A sudden DM that's vague enough to seem harmless but loaded with subtext. "Hey, saw your story, that place looked cool," and for a second you think maybe, just maybe, she still cares. But you have to understand this for what it really is. Not care, not remorse, not love. It's surveillance. It's ego preservation. It's her trying to confirm whether or not she still has emotional power over you, and most men, tragically, take this interest at face value, responding warmly, eagerly, emotionally, as though every small question is a hidden confession of desire, when really it's a check-in from someone who left the table but still wants to know what's being served. And if you feed into this curiosity, if you interpret her questions as emotional olive branches, you place yourself back in the same dynamic that drained you before, one where you offer depth and clarity, while she offers vagueness and confusion, and suddenly you're hoping again, building expectations around fragments, rewriting old stories in your head, preparing for a reunion that she's not even considering seriously. The key here is to respond, not with silence, not with spite, but with stoic simplicity. You offer brief, grounded responses that showcase growth without inviting her into the journey again, because your life is no longer a gallery for her to browse when her attention wanders or her other options falter. Understand this: her curiosity is not commitment, her questions are not actions, and if you open your door every time she knocks emotionally, she'll keep showing up with empty hands, just enough presence to confuse you, but never enough substance to rebuild anything of worth. Your job now is to live in such truth and evolution that even her questions feel like interruptions to your purpose. When she asks about your life, she should find a man so focused on purpose that the answer doesn't flatter her ego. It challenges her choices. That means you don't use her curiosity as a chance to impress. You use it as a mirror to reflect your new standard. Start crafting a version of your life where your progress speaks louder than any explanation. Your discipline, your peace, your forward movement should echo in everything you do. Don't announce the changes. Live them so loudly that even those who once knew you intimately struggle to recognize the man you've become. This is how you reclaim power, by no longer being flattered by her attention, but by being fueled by the life you're building without her. This also means being brutally honest with yourself. Are you growing for you, or are you still staging your life to make her notice? That distinction is the difference between true healing and performative evolution. You need to audit your energy. Stop pouring it into narratives she no longer belongs in. Use her curiosity as proof that you're becoming unreachable, not because you're hiding, but because you're elevating. Start journaling every time she reaches out, not to dwell on it, but to track patterns. Was it after she saw you with someone new? Was it after a post about your new job, your transformation, your travels? This is data. And that data tells you she isn't reaching out because she misses you. It tells you she misses the attention, the safety, the pedestal. Don't let her climb back onto it without bleeding for it. Raise the price of access to your energy so high that even the idea of re-entering your life forces her to face her past with complete accountability. You don't need her curiosity. You need your clarity. You don't chase questions. You become the answer. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you rare. That's what makes her regret. Number 6. She starts arguments over nothing. She picks a fight out of thin air, not because she wants clarity, not because she wants honesty, but because the silence of not being in control eats at her more than any disagreement ever could. And so she throws a jab, maybe about your character, your growth, your new lifestyle, or something seemingly insignificant like a post she didn't like or a photo she saw. and suddenly you're in a heated exchange over nothing that actually matters. And if you respond emotionally, if you rise to the bait and defend yourself with passion or try to clarify your actions with logic, you've already lost, because the goal was never to understand you. It was to provoke you, to reel you back into a dynamic where she gets to feel emotionally relevant again. And the moment you snap, the moment you explain yourself, apologize, or try to validate her accusations, you confirm that her emotional hooks still work. And this is where many men remain stuck for years, not because they don't want peace, but because they confuse conflict for connection, thinking that if she's arguing, at least she still cares, at least she's still present, at least there's something to fix. But that's a delusion, a lie that keeps you in emotional debt to someone who no longer deserves access to your energy. And what you need to realize is that many women pick fights not because they're angry, but because they're invisible. And when you no longer react, when you stop giving fire to her fuel, she becomes irrelevant in the one place she once felt invincible, your emotional world. And that's when she panics, when she starts calling you cold, changed, detached, because now she realizes she can no longer pull you back into emotional chaos with simple manipulation. And that's where your power lies. Not in being loud, not in being defensive, but in being untouchable, in seeing through the game, in staying silent while she screams, composed while she spirals. Because a man who refuses to be emotionally baited is a man who forces everyone around him to either grow or go. And when you stop playing into her arguments, you send her a message louder than any words ever could. I've outgrown this level of access. And you back that message with action by not engaging, not explaining, not proving, just removing yourself entirely from the drama she creates and investing that energy into your own discipline, your own development, your own peace. Because no woman, no matter how beautiful or once special, deserves the power to pull you out of alignment with your values and your future. And if you're serious about becoming that kind of man, start by identifying your emotional triggers, by writing them down, by learning which words, which tones, which memories provoke you, and then build the muscle of non-reaction by putting space between stimulus and response, by choosing stillness over speed and clarity over chaos. Because when she starts arguments over nothing, what she's really doing is checking if she still matters in a life she no longer belongs in. And your job is to show her, without cruelty but with conviction, that peace isn't something she can disrupt anymore. Because you don't owe anyone your reaction, your time, or your energy just because they once had access to it. And when she realizes that arguments don't shake you, that her drama doesn't move you, that her noise doesn't distract you, she'll either elevate or evacuate, and either way, you keep winning. Number 7. She asks if you're seeing someone. She drops the question casually, maybe as a joke, maybe with a smirk, or buried between small talk like it's no big deal. So, are you seeing anyone? But make no mistake, this is not curiosity, it's recon. It's her quietly running emotional surveillance on your life, because despite the distance, despite the silence, despite her decision to pull away or disappear, she still wants to know one thing. Do I still matter to him, or has someone else taken my place? And if your answer is delivered with desperation, if you stumble, over-explain, laugh nervously, or confess you're not over her, she doesn't feel warmth, she doesn't feel closer to you. She feels power, and that power, for a woman who pulled away from you, is intoxicating because it means she still owns emotional territory in your mind. She's not asking because she wants to reconnect. She's asking to confirm whether or not she still controls the room you once built around her. And too many men fall into this trap, thinking honesty equals intimacy, thinking that if they admit they're still single, still struggling, or not interested in dating, she'll feel touched, maybe even return out of compassion or closure. But that's not how this works. Her question isn't an olive branch. It's a probe, a weapon dressed in curiosity. She's checking if you've emotionally moved on. And what you need to understand is this: your answer doesn't need to be a lie, but it must be a statement of strength, not because you're playing games, but because you're protecting your evolution. You say, "I've been focused on myself," not to dodge the truth, but to assert your priority. You say, "I've been leveling up," because you've made your future so attractive that explaining yourself feels like a waste of time. You don't owe her updates. She left. And with that departure, she gave up the privilege of knowing where your heart is. If she's not emotionally invested enough to be present in your process, she doesn't get to peek at your progress. And here's the hard truth you need to accept. A woman who left you in ambiguity, who ghosted, who faded without accountability, who pulled back without warning, does not get to casually dip her toe into your waters to see if it's still warm. That's not love. That's ego maintenance. And the only way you truly reclaim your power in that moment is not by being cold or cruel, but by being clear, by being a man so rooted in direction that no one, not even the one who once meant everything to you, can rattle your composure with a simple question. Because when you show her that you've become untouchable, not emotionally erratic, not obsessed with her return, not spinning in limbo, but a man of mission, she feels the loss not just of a partner, but of access. And that's when the narrative shifts. That's when she begins to doubt her decision. That's when curiosity turns to insecurity, because she no longer knows where you stand. And women don't fear losing love, they fear losing control. So let her ask, let her fish, let her wonder. But let your response be so calm, so confident, so non-attached, that she realizes the door she left doesn't swing in anymore. It closed, and it closed behind a man who evolved beyond needing her validation. Number 8. She repeats patterns from the beginning. Out of nowhere, she brings back the laugh she used when you first met, starts texting you the way she used to, maybe even drops that inside joke from your early days. The tone shifts, the energy feels familiar, and suddenly you're thinking, she's back, she misses the real me. But what's actually happening isn't a return to love, it's a return to familiarity, a carefully calculated emotional reenactment designed to bring down your walls without any true investment behind it. This is one of the most deceptive behaviors a woman who pulled away can engage in, because it taps directly into your nostalgia, into your emotional memory bank, into the part of you that still craves the version of her who was soft, giving, attentive, who saw you when the world didn't. But this new version isn't bringing those things back from a place of change. She's recycling them as tactics. She's hoping that by mimicking the past, she can bypass accountability in the present. That's why it feels good, but wrong. That's why it seems real, but inconsistent. And this is where most men fall again. They take the bait. They believe the callback is connection. They reopen their hearts without evidence, without time, without testing her sincerity, and they end up re-entering the same emotional cycle that broke them before. One where she's present until she gets what she needs, then distant again once your heart's back in her hands. And you want to know how to break that cycle. Stop romanticizing patterns. Start requiring consistency. If she wants back in, let her earn it not with the past, but with the present, through repeated action, through emotional investment, through vulnerability without manipulation. Don't let her skip the work by appealing to your memory. And how do you practically apply this? Keep a record, literally. Write down how she left, what she said, what she didn't say, what it did to your peace. Keep that truth in front of you so when she suddenly shows up being funny again, being sweet again, you remember the pain she caused, not to stay angry but to stay awake. Because healing is about memory management, about protecting your future from the illusions of the past. She's not your first love anymore. She's your last lesson. And if she's not ready to rebuild from scratch, with effort, with honesty, with mutual direction, then she's just trying to pick up where she left off, and that's not love, that's control. So when she returns with recycled charm, don't be rude, but don't be naive. Smile, nod, and then watch. Over time, if she's real, her actions will speak without nostalgia. If she's fake, her patterns will collapse under your new standards. Either way, you stay grounded. You stay in motion. You don't live in the past, because the man you are now doesn't need yesterday's validation. He's building something so powerful, so intentional, so complete, that no recycled energy, no flashback romance, no emotional rerun is enough to distract him again. Number 9. She gives you space, but doesn't move on. She pulls back, stops texting, becomes a ghost in your inbox, disappears from your calls, and at first you think she's just busy, maybe dealing with something personal, maybe just needing a little time. But then days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, and you're left in a strange purgatory, unsure if you're still in a relationship, unsure if there's still something to save. And in the silence, you begin to hope, to wait, to overanalyze every post she shares, every indirect tweet, every playlist update. And while you're sitting in that uncertainty, she's still watching your stories, still liking your posts, still commenting here and there, just enough to remind you she exists. And that's when you realize something sinister. She's given you space, but she hasn't let you go. She's not with you, but she doesn't want you with anyone else. She's not texting, but she's making sure her digital shadow follows you just enough that you never truly move on. And the truth is, this isn't love. This isn't care. This is emotional hostage-taking, because a woman who loves you, who respects you, doesn't leave you in ambiguity. She doesn't vanish and then drop breadcrumbs from a distance. That's not commitment. That's control. And it's one of the most emotionally draining games a man can experience, because it keeps you tethered to someone who already left, chained to a version of a relationship that only exists in your imagination. But here's the power move. The only way you win in this scenario is by taking that space and turning it into the ground you build your kingdom on. You stop waiting, you stop watching, you stop wondering, and you start walking forward, away from the illusion, toward your mission. Because every second you spend checking if she's still looking is a second you're not building the life that would make her absence irrelevant. And how do you practically do this? You go no contact, not as a strategy to get her back, but as a declaration that you're done being emotionally available to someone who's only partially present. You block if necessary, you unfollow, you let go, and then you fill the space she left with growth, with vision, with structure. You create a new routine that doesn't include her, a new version of you that doesn't need her. You rewrite the story so that when she finally does check in, months later, when the silence no longer feels safe to her, you're not just different, you're unreachable. And that's not to punish her, that's to protect you. Because once someone shows you they can leave you in uncertainty, once they show you they can disappear without clarity, they've told you everything you need to know about how they handle conflict, about how they handle discomfort, about how they'll treat you when things get hard. And your job as a man is to listen to that message, not just with your ears, but with your actions. You don't reward inconsistency. You don't chase breadcrumbs. You don't mistake her digital shadow for a real presence. You build. You evolve. You become the man who never waits again. If you're still waiting for a sign, this is it. Because the truth is, if you don't take control of your story now, you'll replay this same heartbreak in different bodies for the rest of your life. She might come back, she might not. But you need to come back to yourself. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint is not just an ebook. It's your escape plan from emotional slavery, your step-by-step map to becoming the man no woman ever walks away from again. It's linked in the comments, and once you own it, it's yours for life. Your quiet weapon in a world that's set up to see men like you fail in love. If you've ever been ghosted, manipulated, strung along, or made to feel like you weren't enough, this is how you take everything back. Comment, "I reclaim my power" below if you're ready to stop waiting and start leading. Like the video, subscribe, and share this truth with another man who's stuck in the same pain, because every second he doesn't hear this is a second lost to regrets that don't need to happen. You've seen what happens when you wait. Now see what happens when you act.